Hey YouTube, today we have more reproduction PCBs from Victor Tan off of Pinsider, aka Dumbass. And this one is a WPC 89 CPU. And then I also built a pre-DCS soundboard and then a DCS soundboard. I actually did two of these and two of these, but I only have one game that uses that. And I'm gonna use these as spares, but I'm gonna confirm that this works in its WPC 89 configuration in a funhouse. So there's a jumper that you can select there, and then you do not need this extra daughter board that we'll talk about here in a second for WPC 89 configuration, but you will have to swap over your ASIC chip likely, since that's a very expensive one to try and carry around as a spare. Make sure that you have a puller for that. Don't try and raw dog that out with the screwdriver. You're gonna end up damaging that socket. Your memory chip may or may not be socketed on your factory MPU, but your game ROM and your CPU certainly will be. So you can swap those over and then test this board out. Now, I'm also going to do the second one of this. I'm going to test it in a roadshow, which is a security game. So with the security configuration, you do need to remove U13 and U14, and then U14 goes into a dummy spot on this daughter card, which just sits over top. It goes to these 4 pins, and then on the bottom of here I have foam over there, but there's 4 male pins that insert, and this clicks down. So you would take out 14 and just store it here, so it's just the spot it sits. It doesn't actually, it's not in any actual circuits. And then you need to put in your U13, and then this is your security pick chip that's on your WPC security MPU. And then you'd still have to swap over your ASIC, your game ROM, and your CPU, and then you can test it there. There's also, if you're going to use this daughter card, there's also one jumper here that you need to move over. So right now it's in the standard spot, and you would move it to the right if you wanted it in the security for SEC. So really good instructions on here, and this board is pretty much a one-to-one layout of the factory board as well. So it's really nice for using one of these tested working repros for troubleshooting too, because you can certainly, with the factory board, maybe you suspect that you blew out your switch matrix, and you could quickly change that out because you know that you have a good working IC in your spare one too. So again, really nice product. Same LED stuff, and that's all written out, same as the factory one. It's nice that all the what it should be doing is written on the LED board. And then sometimes Victor does add some of his own LEDs on there just to make sure that power is getting to different spots. So I don't think the factory MPU has an LED here, and you obviously, if you don't like it, you don't have to put it in. But another thing you could do is always install it, and then there's a jumper here to turn that on and off if you don't like it. So I'm going to test that out in Funhouse, and then also at the security setup in a roadshow. Now also in a Funhouse, it would use a pre-DCS soundboard. So again, I built 2 of these, and again, this is pretty much a one-to-one layout. A little bit different maybe in the power section, but again, you can take your sound ROMs over. Your memory up here is probably not socketed on that, so you might have to get a new chip or a second chip for that, but then you can swap these over. And then your MPU, again, it's going to be the same MPU that you have over here too if you needed to really scrounge for parts. But then you're going to need your Yamaha synth chip, and then the DAC for that. So these 2 are Yamaha chips. And then some of these ICs are very obsolete, and really over here I think this MPU is obsolete too, but it's not too hard to find. But these synth chips are going to be kind of hard to find. Your DAC is going to be hard to find, as well as your CVSD. And your DAC and your CVSD chip are not going to be socketed on your normal one. And a good kind of verification, and just to make sure things are working, is to try and put as many stock chips in here that you know work, and then substitute in the ones that you maybe got from a questionable source, because I think I had to go off of eBay to get this DAC, so that was the only chip that I had that was not factory, and I used that to make sure that that was a good DAC chip. The same thing with the CVSD. So if you can kind of just sub them out one at a time, you'll know if it's an authentic or a counterfeit chip pretty quick. Now there are different jumpers on this one as well. So there's a group 1 and a group 2 configuration, and then those are based on the different games. And then these are everyone's favorite abbreviations for games. So for Funhouse, I'm going to be up in the group 1 jumper block, but then I'll also test this out in Doctor Who for group 2, so that we can see that it's working in both configurations. But again, another really nice reproduction board. And then just watch out for those counterfeit ICs. And if you can isolate and test them one at a time, you're usually pretty safe, because if you need to get your money back on eBay, let's say, it's really easy to do that as long as you test them very soon after you receive them. I think this was, there's a digital attenuator chip too. I think it might be that one, a 3340, that was really hard to find and expensive too. And then there's a X9503 digital pot too. So it's kind of tricky with this board, because there's about half a dozen chips that you are going to have to kind of roll the dice on, and hopefully you get good ones, and hopefully you don't have to deal with counterfeit ones. This board again has some extra LEDs that the other one doesn't have, but again, if you don't like these extra LEDs, there's jumper blocks there to turn them off, which is really nice. Now you have nice big test points, and you can figure out what's going on with this board if you were to have trouble when you booted it up. So again, I'll test this out. I'll test this pair out in a Funhouse, and then I'll swap this one over to a Doctor Who just to make sure it works in its other configuration. And I'll end up doing that with both boards. And with both boards here too, I'll double check that they both work in Funhouse with the standard configuration. I'll double check that they both work in Roadshow with that configuration. Now, Roadshow doesn't use the pre-DCS soundboard, it uses the DCS soundboard. So this one's quite a bit different, and you can tell just by looking at them that that's a very different layout. But again, this board is very close to the stock configuration, which is nice. A couple different things he might have done is break out diodes in the power section, but again, it's good logical upgrades. You'll have to, Roadshow I think doesn't use the top one, but again, you can swap over all of your sound ROMs, and there's a lot of them on this one. Your memory chips will be kind of hard to find too. I had to pull the trigger on eBay for those, and again, those were the only things I had that were not factory or known good when I tested them out, so I could confirm that they were good. You'll have to roll the dice on your DAC again, and then I can't remember if there's anything else on here. This is kind of a spendy chip too that you might have to work out. This is also on other DCS soundboards, but if you have a Mortal Kombat 2 arcade game where they started using DCS sounds, this is the same processor. So I actually swapped over one of these from a spare Mortal Kombat 2 soundboard, so I knew that one was good. And then I think this is the same DAC that it uses as well if you had a Mortal Kombat 2 soundboard. You'll see that this one's empty. This is your, I think it's a PAL chip, 17002, that you'll have to swap over to. A lot of people don't have the ability to burn those compared to burning your own ROMs. But again, we'll test this one out in Roadshow. There's different values listed on there if you're going to use this as a DCS or a W95 board. Again, I don't have any W95 games, it's just Roadshow for DCS, so I'm going to rock it like this. So we'll do this board and a CPU in Roadshow, and we'll stitch in some videos to make sure those are all working well. Here's a quick video of the Reproduction CPU set up for WPC security, and then we have the Reproduction DCS soundboard as well. And then it's been running for a few hours, just kind of burning in, and show that obviously tell the CPU is working, but for the sound, we'll go into the tests and just run through the sound plus music. So everything is working well. Here's a quick video of the Reproduction pre-DCS soundboard and a Doctor Who. We'll go ahead and just, if we hit the volume buttons, it'll give us some music. So it seems to be working well. We'll go into test, and you can just quickly run through the sound plus music test. And so everything seems to be working well. And this was the Type 2 configuration on the jumper blocks. That was the whole thing. I'll shut that one up. But then in Funhouse, we have not only the soundboard, Reproduction soundboard in there, and again, this is set up for, this is my only Group 1 WPC game, but then this also has the Reproduction CPU. So this is kind of running both of them just as a test bed for now. But you can obviously tell that the CPU is working, but if we go into test again, we can get our music. We can go volume up a little bit and down. So that's all working. And then same test, just looks different because it's on a alphanumeric display instead of a DMD. But so these are running well. Another great product from Victor.